What's going on, guys? My name is Michael Lozano, and for my presentation, I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about my dad. He's the person that I chose to do my presentation on. Just kind of a little history about my dad. For me, he's by far the biggest leader and the biggest influence in my life, whether it be within the family, whether it be me seeing how he handles his relationships or in the workforce. By far, he is the number one leader in my entire life. Kind of a little bit about him. He served in the military. He's an ex-Marine who served in the Persian Gulf War. As of right now, he works for Tesla Motors Company as a manager in that position. So the kind of the things that I wanted to present to you guys was just some questions that I asked him in regards to being in a leadership position, and I kind of just want to share that with you guys here. So one of the first questions that I asked was, who inspired you to be a leader? Like, who was it specifically that you saw that said, you know what, I want to be just like that person? And he kind of didn't give me one specific answer. He kind of mentioned that growing up, that he always was influenced by people who he considered to be good orators, whether it was family members, pastors giving sermons at church, or he actually did give this one specific example where growing up as a kid, he actually really looked up to John Wayne and the John Wayne movies. And I thought that was kind of funny, but his reason being for it was he just saw how John Wayne carried himself in those old Western movies, and he always just thought that John Wayne was the man, and growing up that he wanted to be just like him. So that's kind of the history behind that as to him wanting to be a leader. Another question that I had asked was, at what point did you realize that you were in a leadership position? And he shot me with the answer with, at 10 years old, as young as that, where he was the neighborhood kid who would coordinate all the activities in the neighborhood, whether it be sports activities, and just anything. He was the kid knocking on all the doors, asking if so-and-so can play. And I mean, this is obviously at a time where technology wasn't prominent at all. So face-to-face communication was the only way to get a hold of anyone. So he was the kid of where if something was going to get done, that Mike was going to be the one to do it. So that's kind of like the story on that. And another thing that he had mentioned was that I asked him, what is it exactly that you do in the workforce that stands out to you specifically? And he says that leading by example is number one for him, that when it comes to him and his employees, that he never asks his employees to do anything that he wouldn't do, that his motto is to always lead from the front and should never lead from the behind. And I kind of like that, because we definitely have had our experiences where that certain people ask you to do things that they wouldn't do themselves, and it can be very frustrating at times. One thing that he made very prominent as well was that when being in a good leadership position, one thing that you should always try to avoid is singling anyone out, whether it be in any type of relationship. But for him as a manager in his workforce, that he never wants to single anyone out, because not only does it bring the morale down between the group, but to the individual, that the group everyone shares the same goal, and they want to achieve the same goal. So by singling anyone out, it's not doing anyone any good. And like I said, it just brings down the whole morale within the workforce. Another thing that I had asked him was, as a leader, what's one thing that you face that's the most problematic thing in a day-to-day work environment? And one thing that he talked about was organizational values versus personal values. And we've kind of discussed that in earlier chapters, but it's very relatable for him. For example, he has a lot of employees that complain about the hard hours. You know, at Tesla, these employees are working 13, 14 hours a week, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 days a week. And as much as he wants to tell those guys, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you here? You're young. Go to school. Find another job. Because that's him as a person just trying to look out for them. He knows that's not within the organization's best intentions. You know, at the end of the day, he knows that he needs these people here, Tesla needs these people here, and that these cars need to be made. So that's one thing that he faces on a day-to-day basis, is the problem between organizational and personal values. So that's definitely something that I consider to be an issue that I might face myself. I asked him the question about, are leaders born or can leaders be made? And kind of his response to that was that leaders are born. Leaders are naturally born, I guess you can say. But he did say that leaders can be made. But the thing about it is, it doesn't mean that they're going to make a good leader and carry out their acts. And he said that usually you can tell that someone's going to be a good leader just by their ethics, by their morals, by their characters, by their charisma. And he said that if someone has strong traits in those areas, that odds are that they're going to be a good leader. And then kind of like the last question that I asked him was, what is it that you enjoy as being in a leadership position? What is it that makes you motivated to get out of bed and go to work every day? And for him, he said that he loves to see his employees flourish in their jobs, whether it be getting promotions, whether it be getting recognition, or you just becoming better individuals personally or within the workforce. He says he loves seeing that development with his employees. So that's probably like his most favorite thing about being a leader. And that's where I kind of wrapped it off with him. So hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you guys can learn something from this. Thank you.